Hey guys, back again with our final setup video for F1 2021, for the time being at least. China is currently the last track in the F1 2021 track list, meaning it's the last dry setup in our setup video series for now. That is until Codemasters release the 3 tracks that they've been promising. As soon as those new tracks drop, I'll be jumping straight on them to release more setup videos. But for the time being, let's focus on China. This is a fast, fun and flowing track, and in many ways it's very similar to Suzuka. It's got some long sweeping corners and one of the longest straights on the F1 track list. You really need to focus on stability, as there are a few areas of the track where your car can get a bit loose, and it's a track where you do need to focus on top speed. Although you'll find with this setup, I've prioritised the corners a little more than the top speed potential. So let's jump straight in and have a look at our Chinese F1 2021 setup. Starting with the aero, I've gone for a front wing aero of 9 and a rear wing aero of 8. This is slightly different to some setup approaches for China, as some prioritise the rear wing over front. However, I feel that you need a little more front end to get your car turned in, especially in some of the slower cars or the My Team career car. Going with 9 at the front and 8 at the rear is actually quite a high downforce setup for China, and you will feel a little bit of this pain down some of the straights. I did play around with having 7 on the rear wing, which helped at the end of the long straights, but the car was just a little more twitchy through the corners, and I felt that the best approach for an actual race setup is to increase that rear wing a touch up to 8, as it just gave better stability across a lap, and slightly better lap time as well. You'll see at the end of this video when I'm racing against the other cars that towards the end of the long straight, the other cars do come back at me a little bit, but I have more than enough top speed to pull some overtakes. So moving on to the transmission, I've gone for an on diff of just 65 and an off diff of 55. China has a combination of medium to high speed corners and a few slower speed corners where traction is crucial. So I've prioritised the slower speed corners by lowering my on throttle diff a little. Again, I find that during a race, a slightly lower on throttle diff will just help with overall consistency when you're trying to get traction out of the corners. Then looking at the suspension geometry, I've gone with a very usual approach here of right on the front camber and then left on the rear camber and both toe values. So go with -2.7 on the front camber, -2 on the rear, 0.06 on the front toe and 0.2 on the rear. This will give you a setup with tyre life in mind a little, but also minimising drag and increasing top speed. Especially if we're running a rear wing of 8, we need to reduce our drag as much as possible to compensate for this. Then going for the suspension setup, I've gone with a soft front suspension of just 1 and a rear suspension of 4. Then for the anti-roll bars I've inverted this and I've gone for 4 on the front and 2 on the rear. This style of suspension setup will create a soft car and one which is super stable. By running a softer rear anti-roll bar, your car is much less likely to oversteer or give way under traction, which when you're accelerating out some of the longer corners and onto the straights is quite crucial. The last thing you want is to lose rear traction midway through one of these corners. Then go for a ride height of 3 and 7, which is pretty standard across most tracks. For the brakes, go with our standard brake setup of 97% pressure and 57% brake bias. Knocking back the brake pressure away from 100 will just minimise your chance of locking a wheel, and the front focused brake bias of 57% will help reduce stopping distances, which is vitally important, especially at the end of that long straight. And then for the tyres, I've reduced the front tyre pressures away from maximum with a value of 23.8. This will help your front tyres last during a race, where they can take a bit of a battering around the long corners. Then for the rears, go the pretty high setup of 23.1. And that'll do it for our Chinese F1 2021 car setup, and it will round out the F1 2021 car setup series, for now. As I mentioned at the start of this video, as soon as the new tracks drop, I'll jump straight on them and create setup videos for them as well, so check back as soon as those tracks are dropped. Also, going forward, I'll be making videos with wet race setups in mind, as well as videos such as how to convert dry setups to wet setups. So why not hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified as soon as any more F1 2021 setup videos drop. And as always, if you enjoy this setup and it helps you out, hit the like button, as that will really help as many people as possible see this setup video. But until next time, see you on track, guys.